Yeah. Huh? Hey, I'm tryna win. I'm tryna win in the 716 and I'm making it big. I wanna live. I think I'm ready to travel.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It with Ty. I'm your host, Ty, so let's talk about it. First things first, there is no basketball content this week. It is strictly football. So let's get into some football content. Let's talk about Hard Knocks. For those who don't know what Hard Knocks is a football syndicated show on HBO Max, and it comes on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. And Hard Knocks this season, offseason, is the Giants. So let's recap episode 1 and 2. In episode 1, you meet Joe Schoen. Joe Schoen is the Giants general manager. He started off as a scouting assistant for the Carolina Panthers in 2001. Was the assistant general manager when the Buffalo Bills selected Josh Allen, and became the general manager for the Giants in 2022. So in the first shot, you meet him basically not having an offseason. And he talks about the NFL season starts on March 13th and he has to get the ball rolling. You realize that he doesn't believe in shortcuts. He's just on top of his game. In the episode, they talk about recognizing value is just as important as judging talent, shaping this decision as the NFL salary cap. This year's salary cap that you find out in the first episode is roughly $240 million. This cap money is how the players get paid. But all the money in the world doesn't tell you which players are right for the Super Bowl. Moving forward, we meet Brandon Brown, assistant general manager, and Chris Rossetti, the director of pro scouting. And in there, they talk about Shane feels like, we got better at every position and we still only managed to win 6 games. And they bring up Daniel Jones having 3 serious injuries in the last 2 years, and they need to protect themselves. The best predictor of the future is the past. In one of the meetings, they speak of Dexter Lawrence as their foundation piece, but he can't do it alone. So they are searching for more talent to create the next great Giants defense. You've realized that nothing can be finalized until head coach Brian Daboll picks a defensive coordinator, which they end up picking Shane Bowen from the Tennessee Titans. They believed he learned a lot under Mike Vrabel, and he's a good fit for their system moving forward. In one of the meetings, you learn Bowen's defensive scheme and what kind of defense he kind of wants for the Giants. And this helps them to go for the players that they want to go out in the market and get. Shane's defense scheme is a base defense. For those who don't know, base defense is a 3D lineman, 2 edge, 2 inside, backers, and 4 DBs. DBs is corners and safeties. He believes that the 2 smartest positions on the field are the 2 inside backers, and they're the bulk of the load. And he wants like a 4 elite pass rush up front. At the end of the first episode, you meet Tim McDonald. He's a director of player personnel, and he raises the question of Saquon Barkley. If Saquon leaves the Giants, what is their identity now? What does the offense look like moving forward if Saquon is not there? And Shane basically responds with that we're going to upgrade the offensive line, and that they're basically moving with Daniel Jones being the person that they center it around. Daniel Jones gets paid $40 million, and just to hand it off to a back that's getting paid $12 million, like that's just it's not conducive for what they see. So, and then he says, like, we're sitting at 6 in the NFL draft, so we can go get another offensive weapon. That lingering feeling of the Saquon Barkley, Joe Shane relationship lingers on until like episode 2, where you learn basically the Giants are going to the combine. They're trying to figure out who they're going to go for, what their matters is going to be. And a couple things that you learned in episode 2 is the Giants went in depth with the QBs and the wide receivers. One of the scouts mentioned that the Giants look at it at how the player will fit into the organization personality-wise. Drake May, one of the quarterbacks in the combine, was said to have the same personality as Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors was described in the room as highly competitive and passionate. And it kind of was fascinating to see them talk about Neighbors in such a way, because that's the only player that they really talk about in the sense of wanting to work around him. Another thing that you get in episode 2 is the friction, the continuing friction between Joe Shane and Saquon Barkley. Before the combine, Shane is getting ready to be questioned by the reporters. And in there, he, like, the person that goes over, like, the meeting before it happens, came up with some mock questions that regarding Saquon. And Shane told the media that the franchise tag wasn't off the table. Even he gave the eye-opening answer with I understand he doesn't want to be franchise tag, and I wanted to give him a lot of money a year ago, and he didn't want that, but there's nothing I can do about that. So in that moment, you realize, like, did Shane really let Saquon walk? Like, was this something that he kind of envisioned on Saquon walking? Because that was kind of a petty answer to say in front of all the reporters, knowing that Saquon didn't want to be franchise tag. So keep going with it. You meet Brian Daboll. Daboll is leading the combine in the interviews for the QBs. In this moment, you really see the mind of Brian Daboll. And to be honest, him working for, the Bills, my hometown team, I just didn't understand, like, that he was just as good as he was until I seen this part of the episode, and I was just so intrigued by it. He had them draw up a favorite passing play before explaining it to the coaching staff. He was impressed by Drake May the most with how he was able to digest the information. He also was impressed with Caleb Williams. Now, in this scene with the quarterbacks, they're drawing up the schemes, and Brian is making them switch the letters, the numbers, whatever. And, like, they're supposed to repeat a play that he says back to him, so he's able to see, like, how able you are to adjust to certain situations, and just to see if you're paying attention to his play call. And like I said, he was impressed by May. He was impressed by Caleb Williams. With that being said, you learn that the Giants really do consider getting a quarterback in this draft. You see Joe Shane on the phone saying, like, he couldn't afford the team going 0-3 while Daniel Jones recovered from a torn ACL. You also see on the show where Joe Shane goes and visits the New England Patriots at the combine, where he asked the GM to consider him, the Giants, if the Pats decide to trade down. And that right there shows you, like, they're not all the way sold on Daniel Jones. And it raises the question if, continuing forward, is he going to be the face of the Giants? Another thing that's like you see in this episode is that Brian is very enamored by Malik Neighbors. He, they basically, work around, they were like asking him about how does he feel about him not getting the targets. And Malik Neighbors was like, I have an issue not getting targets. I take it personally, not getting targets. And I mean, what wide receiver wouldn't get, offended by not getting targets? But I think it was just to see how he would recover from if it didn't. And Brian is sold on him. And then last but not least, the ending scene of episode 2, Joe Shane calls Saquon and tells him to test the market. And in it, Shane asks Saquon, to give me his word that he will circle back and let the Giants know like what he got offered. And Saquon basically doesn't give him a certain answer. And it leads suspense on, that this is coming to an end. Like, this is coming to an end. It's just, when does it happen? How does it happen? So, like I said, Hard Knocks is every Tuesday, 9 p.m. on Max. You definitely need to get into it if you are a football head just like me. And episode 3 is next week, Tuesday. But we're going to switch some gears, guys. We're going to switch some gears. I'm introducing a new thing on the show that is basically me giving you preview of the divisions. And I want to start off with the AFC North. Let's start off with the number 1 seed, Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens had a 13-4 regular season, finished 4th in the NFL for scoring last season, 28.4 points per game, and 6th in total offense, and were the AFC's North number 1 seed. Also, the past year, their defense was historic as they became the first defense ever to lead the league in points allowed, sacks, and takeaways. All if you watch football like I do, you know that Lamar Jackson had another MVP season. In his MVP season, he had a 67.2% passing percentage with 3,678 yards, with 24 tuds and 7 interceptions. But he also produced at the running game with 821 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. That's impressive. You can see exactly why he won MVP, but you can also see that they heavily rely on Lamar Jackson to get stuff done. And I think with this offseason, that's another reason why they came to get Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, in addition to the offense, he takes the pressure off Lamar. He's a powerhouse in the backfield. He often forces more defenders into the box. This could create more opportunity to take shots downfield against one-on-one coverage. So that, in its sense, can, I think the Ravens are trying to go for that 2 tight end tandem. So it creates more opportunities for Andrews and Isaiah to get going. It also creates for a wide receiver to get going, and that's in itself could be a dark horse, because who's to say? We don't really know how the wide receivers will be just because they've relied on Lamar Jackson for a long time. Derrick Henry alone adds production to the team. Last season, he had 280 carries, 1,167 rushing yards, 12 tuds, and he averaged about 4.2 yards per attempt. So Derrick Henry is definitely going to be a good thing adding to the offense. I have my producer here with me, B, and I'm going to ask him a question about, Derrick Henry being added to the offense. What do you think?
It's scary for the AFC. It's scary for the AFC North. I mean, you talking about a dude that what is he, like 6'4"?
No, he's 6'2", 247.
All right, still 6'6", whatever.
6'2",
280. I don't care. That man is a bulldozer.
I know.
So it's like, that's like, he bigger than most linebackers. So he trucking through everything. So, I mean, you already got somebody as like the most electrifying player in football, which is Lamar Jackson. And then you just add Derrick Henry to the rushing attack. Like,
yeah, and then, like I said before, him being 29 years old and he's producing like that. He's about to turn 30. I mean, he just turned 30. He's going to 30.
Yeah, and it's crazy because most running backs by the time they're 29, you would think they're cooked.
Yeah,
but I think he might have another 1,800-yard season in him.
So another thing that we needed to talk about too is that playoff run. So they started the playoff strong. They had the first round bye because of the first seed. And then they beat the Texans 34-10 in the divisional round. Going to the next game where they play the Chiefs, they lose, 17-10. And they ultimately end the season with that. So I just, if they would have won that game, it definitely would have been a different go mode for them. But they, it just didn't go right. How did you feel about the playoff run that they had? I
think they handled business with Houston, especially Definitely. Because that was like a team that Definitely. No one expected to be as good as they are, especially with the quarterback Stroud. So I think, ultimately like they handled business there, but it was definitely a disappointing outing against Kansas City, especially when you think about the Zay Flowers play where he gets penalized for taunting, and then right after that he fumbles, and that kind of like changes the
side of the game.
Changes the entire game.
It changes the side of the game. I definitely remember that play. Like he definitely you could see him like standing over somebody, and then it's like, now you get the penalty on you. Now the penalty puts you back, was it 15 yards, I believe?
You one or two plays away from going to the Super Bowl playing against the 49ers. They had already cooked the 49ers in the regular season. So, I mean, that might have been their opportunity to,
take another one home.
Or especially with Lamar in them now.
But to Flowers, like that, I mean, that was just like, I feel like that was like a rookie mistake, but it's definitely a learning moment.
Too.
It's football. I don't care what nobody say. That's exactly what I like. I like when you do all that, but like, let's not get penalized for it. Another thing that raises a question, with the Ravens moving forward is they have a new defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. Zach Orr, can he recreate what Mike McDaniel did? Like, the magic with the defense. Personally for me, Zach Orr is inbred. Like, he's been in the Ravens organization for almost 10 years with Mike. Zach is coming from being a player for the Ravens from 2014 to 2016. He then moves on to be a defensive analyst from 2017 to 2020. And he becomes the inside linebackers coach for 2 seasons underneath Mike being the DC. With him being, with him under 2 seasons, I don't think nothing changed schematically. I think the only thing that really changes is how the team is formed, because they have lost 2 coach personnel. They lose their defensive line coach to, I believe, the Dolphins. He's the new DC for the Dolphins. And they also lose their DB's coach, and he's now the DC for the Tennessee Titans. So I just think like he has to, this challenge isn't like something like a coach has never, done. Like, it's a new year. You're not going to have the same players. You're not going to, people get, hired in other places. So I feel like Zach Orr is definitely going to do very well. Like he's been in the system for a long time. He knows Mike, he's been underneath Mike's roof. So I just feel like, Zach is going to do very well. Like, what do you think? How do you think Zach's going to do as a DC?
I mean, he's unproven, but I think at the same time, we're starting to see a lot of former players. You look at DeMeco Ryans and what he's doing in Houston. Yeah. I mean,
and that was 1 year.
Yeah,
that's why I kind of feel like it happened with Zach. Like he could do that 1 year like DeMeco did and be like great and not lost a step.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, he still has one of the best linebackers in the league with Roquan Smith and one of the best safeties in the league with Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
Marlon Humphreys is still a dog. So it's like, I mean, the pieces are still there on the defense. So he might not be able to do it exactly like Mike McDonald and he might add his own spin, but I'm excited about it.
To be honest, though, is depending on if it depends on the like I said, how the season is formed. Like the team is formed because if you look at it, he might got to dial up or he might got to dial down just because of the team, how it's formed. So like, I'm excited to see, how he's going to do. Like he does plan on playing like organized chaos from what I've read, meaning hit everything moving. We're going to play violent. We're going to play together and we're going to execute. So I'm excited to see how the Ravens, adjust with, this new DC. Because everything's really the same. Like I said, like even with Todd Monken, being the offensive coordinator. Like I said, I can't wait to see what he, draws up to play with adding Derrick Henry in there, so, and like relieving the pressure off Lamar being a rusher. Now we can see Lamar with an arm. Like, not to say they haven't seen him with an arm, but we can see him with the arm. Next team, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns had 11-6 regular season. They clinched their first winning season in a playoff berth since 2020. Starting 5 different quarterbacks, something we've never seen. Like, still get it to a winning thing. In the 2023 season, the Browns led the league in total defense allowed with 270.2 yards per game. They had the best passing defense in the league, only allowing 164.7 yards per game. And they also led the NFL in third down percentage, allowing teams to only convert 29.1% of a third down attempt. What do you think about that? How do you think they are going to be this year, coming off such a great year like that?
Just the defense alone, I mean, Schwartz he different. He changed the entire defense because I think they always had the pieces, but he just like turned. I mean, he let Myles Garrett turn up. And
Best defensive player of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, you ask me, they're probably going to be no less than like a top 3 defense.
But what's crazy is that they because with defense, it goes like total defense, scoring defense, red zone, all those things. They led in 2 of them.
The DVOA.
Yeah, so they led in them. And he brought up Schwartz. Schwartz is the defensive coordinator, if those don't know. And one of the things he did note, like he wanted to change, that he felt like that their defense needed to work on was their red zone defense. Last year, the Browns had the worst red zone defense rate with 71.4%. And this was something like that they worked on in OTAs. Like they did a 7-on-7 drill at the red zone. And like I said, I'm impressed at this defense just for the simple fact that I feel like people don't talk about this defense enough, like how good it actually is, But I believe they're gonna have another, it's just gonna be building. If they fix that red zone, you're definitely gonna see a even more aggressive defense. It's gonna be the scariest one. It's gonna be the scariest one.
If they fix that.
But Ken Dorsey is now the new offensive coordinator for the Browns. Going off his history with the Bills, his first season with the Bills, actually, he helped QB Josh Allen improve his QB rating in 2019. And then when he became the offensive coordinator here, the Bills finished second in the NFL in total offense and points per game. Head coach Kevin Stefanski noted that Dorsey has worked with and elevated some of the top QBs in the league and will bring a fresh approach to our offense. So I feel like they brung in Ken Dorsey to help Deshaun Watson. I think that's really what they saw getting Ken Dorsey. Yes, he has the history of, having such good outcomes with quarterbacks. I just think that's really why they went and got Ken Dorsey, was to see if getting him, does Deshaun Watson elevate his game? Does he become the Deshaun Watson that we kind of seen with the Texans? Like that type of Deshaun Watson again. Now, Deshaun Watson, his numbers aren't bad. But I feel like they don't always translate on the field. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, like since Deshaun Watson has become the quarterback, he's only played 12 games for the Browns. And in that, he averaged 102 pass completions, 170.5 attempts, 59.8 winning percentage. He almost has 1,100 yards, 7 tuds, 4.5 interceptions. So, like I said, I feel like they got Ken Dorsey to try to elevate Watson's game and the pieces around him. What do you think? Why do you think they went and got Ken Dorsey?
I think you get Ken Dorsey because you got a $250 million quarterback and you have somebody who's known for having an efficient offense. So you made the investment, and so now you want to see some return on that. So I think
because that's guaranteed money too.
I think they've already pushed their chips all the way in with this fully guaranteed contract, but now I think their backs are against the wall, and so they have no choice but to do everything they can to make that situation work now.
But I do feel like that all depends on Deshaun Watson and his health. Like Deshaun Watson did last year suffer a glenoid fracture in his throwing shoulder during Week 10's win over the Ravens, and he needed surgery, and that ruled him out for the rest of the season. So I feel like if he can stay healthy and he play up to par of he did with the Texans, I feel like the Browns is going to be scary, and in addition to getting Jerry Judy now. Jerry Judy, he's an elite separator. He didn't have the best numbers at Denver, but Denver, it's been chaotic for a couple of seasons now. And, he gives them a deep threat. Everybody knows that, Deshaun Watson been, craving another, weapon. And like I said, he'll be on opposing defense. The opposing defense is going to be focused on Cooper and Juco. Is that how you pronounce his name? I hate pronouncing people's names wrong, but they're going to be trying to lock them up. Now Jerry Judy, he gonna have some favorable matchups. So I'm just, I'm excited to see, how this is gonna go, how this is gonna play out. Just knowing, just seeing how they've gotten, their pieces. Like now they have pieces. Now they have, a good decent quarterback. So I'm just excited to see how things go. Next team we need to talk about is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about that they now got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in the QB room now. I don't know how I feel about that, really. What do you think about this quarterback room now?
I think it's better than what they had last year. I mean, you had Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett.
I don't think Kenny Pickett was as bad.
I mean, you may not think that, but the Steelers thought that
I had him on my fantasy football, and he ain't do that bad with them numbers. Some days.
What was your team record?
Let's not go there.
All right.
Where was yours?
Better than yours.
It was not.
Yeah. So I think when you replace one quarterback with two, I think you're really addressing the fact that you were not satisfied with the quarterback play. And I think that ultimately this is a chance for Russ to kind of redeem himself and be in, I guess, Sean Payton is supposed to be an adult in the room, but I think Mike Tomlin is the real adult in the room. And I think that's the same thing for Justin Fields. So
I think where I just raised the question with them two dynamics being in the room is that I feel like they kind of play two different styles of being a quarterback. Like, it's like I'm trying to fix my brain about what identity are they going with. Like, are we going with Russell Wilson as the head or Justin Fields as the head? Like, I know that Russell Wilson is going to play that vet role for Justin Fields, but I just feel like
I don't know. I think their games are a little bit more similar than you might give it credit for, especially when you think about Seattle Russ and the fact that he kind of like put his body on the line all the time, especially using his legs. And I mean, he kind of avoided throwing over the middle. And I mean, that's more or less kind of like the thing with Justin Fields. We also know like probably behind Lamar, he's probably like
the next move,
like
running,
when it comes to running quarterbacks,
like
with like electrifying is probably Justin Fields. But I also think that maybe he comes in with a better offensive weapons than he had in Chicago. And so
I could definitely see that. But I also seeing like, how I feel like that too. You probably really won't know how they are as quarterbacks to like trying to figure something out until they do like their training camp and they get their reps in, and then you run it. Like how I would think about it, especially with preseason is like, play Russell Wilson in the first half and then play Justin Fields in the second half and see, how they move, how you feel like you want, to win the starting quarterback. I mean, because I feel like they're gonna put Russell being, because he is a vet. He's got 1 year. You know what I'm saying? They're probably gonna play him more for the simple fact that he is the 1 year. He is the vet. They're trying to change the dynamic now. They might do like Justin Fields where he plays more back if needed to come in and, get a little bit more, get a little bit more help from a vet. He didn't have that with the Bears. He was just trained to go and play then. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this quarterback room and how this, adjustment goes. The another thing that happens with the Steelers is Arthur Smith is the new offensive coordinator. He was the head coach for the Falcons, and before that, he was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. Now, what's so crazy about this is who Arthur Smith has had in these rosters. He had Bijan Robinson with the Falcons, and then he had Derrick Henry, and was he there? Julio was still there? Was he there? No?
I don't think, Julio wasn't
Julio wasn't there.
No.
But Derrick Henry was there. So just, how you think he's going to be with this?
I think clearly
offense.
The Steelers are making it a point to want to run the ball. So, I mean, that's exciting news for Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I mean, and, this kind of presents that opportunity to use Justin Fields as a gadget and when he's out on the field. I mean, so when you have a rushing attack like that, and it
changes how the Steelers have been operating. Because like I said, like how I remember the Steelers, it's always kind of been, especially like Big Ben era, like it's been right to AB. Then you had like Le'Veon. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like this Justin Fields being the one of the quarterbacks now, it changes the dynamic of the offense just for the simple fact. Plus with Arthur, there's gonna be a lot more run.
Yeah, and improving the offensive line. I think I think a lot of people raved about the Steelers draft, and I think with the first two draft picks just going to protect, trying to protect whoever is going to be the quarterback, also adds another dynamic to the offense.
Yeah, because everybody knows your offense is as good as your offensive line. If that offensive line is not up to par, all the weapons you got, that shuts down. That just shuts it down. You could see what happened with the Giants with Saquon. When Saquon used to have to go back 20 yards and just to see and go through, and that's not what you want, moving forward. Another person is Joey Porter Jr. Like, how he gonna look now? You feel like is he gonna emerge better than he was?
Yeah, he was a dog his rookie year. So he's kind of cut from that cloth. His pops, obviously, linebacker, Steelers.
Yeah.
He already said it. On I Am Athlete, he's like, yo, I feel like I'm
the best
corner in the league. So now he has to prove that, especially in a room where they are kind of lacking at corner. They went and got Cam Sutton. He's suspended for like 8 games, and then
that's bad. That's
crazy. So
well, that's kind of like the job where Tomlin come in, because he's more of a defensive mind. And speaking of Tomlin, he does have that contract extension. You know what I'm saying? So they're paying him to get the job done. You know what I'm saying? And him, being a defensive minded coach, I feel like he gonna get him to the point where he eating. The question that really raises is, are they gonna have another 9-8 season? Like, they've been at that hump for years. Tomlin's been the head coach for the Steelers, 16 years now? So it's like, you've only been to 1 Super Bowl. Like, can we get past, you haven't winning seasons, but can we get past the 9-8? Do you feel like they can get past the 9-8?
With Russ and Justin Fields, like I said, it's better than the quarterback play they had last year. And although if you even look at the Bills game last year, it was at first it looked like Buffalo was going to run away with it.
Exactly.
And then they got a little bit more competitive. So, whether it's Russ or Justin Fields, who I feel is both are better options than Mason Rudolph, who knows
exactly
what could have happened.
Like I said, I'm kind of excited to see how this goes. As I'm going through these teams, I feel like it's just getting more and more exciting. So, last but not least, let's end with the Bengals. Joe Burrow is back, but he has a weird injury. I can't get over this injury. It's in his throwing wrist, right? It's in his throwing wrist. And I'm just more nervous about him re-injuring it. What? That's their quarterback. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they even have a backup quarterback that amounts to what Joe.
What was dude's name last year? He wasn't bad. I think a lot of. Was it Jake Browning? A lot of people were kind of. A lot of people were kind of surprised. Jake Browning
wasn't that
he got
bad.
some dog in him.
He got some dog in him. But I said, I hate when people call Joe Burrow Joe Cool, because that's Joe Montana nickname. I don't like that. Don't call him that. But we can say the new improved Joe Cool. I don't even like to say cool, but we'll call him Joe. We'll call him Cool, because that's kind of what he looked like.
Joey
but anyway, but I don't know. Like I said, reports is he's playing a piano to get his hands, his wrists work back. I just that injury to me is something you can just injure again, just like with Deshaun Watson injuring his throwing shoulder. So I don't know. I'm hoping he can get back to what we saw in him, because, like I said, the Bengals became a team to watch, especially with
Hey,
Jamar.
you see, he said, I think it was on Pardon My Take. He was like, yo, I think people forgot about Joe Burrow.
That's what I'm saying, because you haven't seen him.
But he also was like, yo, I got something exciting to show y'all.
He said he got something in his bag.
I think he got a point to prove.
You could have a point to prove, but it's only as far as how your injury is. But what we do need to talk about is how T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. T. Higgins still is. Did they franchise tag him or did they not? They did? Oh, yeah, they did. But I thought that it was around July 15th that they would figure out if he would actually get a contract. So they really fully franchise tagged him?
Yeah, to my understanding, I think they're going to probably move on, which is why they ended up drafting a receiver in this year's draft. And then I think, on top of the fact that you gotta pay Jamar Chase, and
they ain't pay my boy Chase
probably get the same bag that
he better get that.
Got.
Yeah, he better get it. Shoot, he better get it for the simple fact that his production is there. So I want to see what they do with Jamar Chase, because I think my boy need his chicken. He need that chicken. He earned it. He just stat-wise, I think it was Justin and then it was Jamar. Like, I believe that was the order. So, like I said, I'm excited to see them pay Jamar Chase and, get back to how they was looking, a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? You got that looming thing. So it is what it is. But I feel like all their pieces coming back together, they're a true contender. Like, they're a true contender in their division. Now, the only thing, like, going through the whole, teams, like, it's almost hard to pick who's going to be the number one. Like, you want to say it's the Ravens again, but then you got to think about how good Cleveland got. If if Deshaun Watson comes back healthy, they already were the second seed without Deshaun Watson. You know what I'm saying? So, moving forward.
In the division, right? Yeah.
They were second seed after. Moving forward, like, if he's healthy, like, will they become number one? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does, with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields being now the head of quarterback, now they got this, they got all these pieces. Do they become number one? If Joe Burrow go back to how they was a couple years ago and they got the 2 wide receiver tandem and all that stuff, do they become number one? So it's like, it's very hard right now seeing who will be the true number one. But it's just, I don't know. Do you feel like who could be number one?
If you had to pick today, is there a team that you're like kind of leaning towards?
If I had to pick today, I told you that's
Say
hard.
it with your chest.
Say it with my chest. I might gotta go. I might gotta go with the Ravens, just for the simple fact that you got Derrick Henry. He's a Bama player. You know how I feel about my Bama boys, and that's a powerhouse. And like I said before, they didn't have like they didn't have a bad defense at all. So I just feel like they could go back to where they are. But like I said, a close second might be the Browns. Just for the simple fact of their defense. And if they already were second seed without Deshaun, and if Deshaun comes back complete healthy, and now they got the Jerry. I just feel like that. Like, it's still optimism between the Steelers and the Bengals for the simple fact you don't know how if Joe goes back 100%, like how he was, or how the Steelers look now with Russell and Justin. Who's who, but But I feel like the division got better. Overall, the division got better just with the trades and the movements and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see how the AFC North is. I'm a football girl, so I'm excited to see how everything goes. But you guys know, every time I end the show, I always end it with sneaker talk. So let's get into today's sneaker. This right here, y'all know how I feel about my Kobe's. These are Nike Kobe 8s, and these are the All-Star Area 72s. These are about, I want to say they about 10 years old, and they in good condition. You know what I'm saying? I keep my sneakers looking nice and new. But yeah, so, this is a lightweight, if I was balling, hooping again, these would be my little signature sneaker. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Next week, we are going to do another preview of a division, and I can't wait to see you guys again. Thanks for tuning in.